Hello everyone, this is me from the future. It's been about 4 days since I did this interview with the wonderful Alexis Knight. She's an incredibly insightful person and I learned so much from her. But I know a lot of you may not have enough time to watch this full interview, so I thought I should address the main takeaway at the start, which is to go follow Alexis on her YouTube channel, her Instagram, and check out her website as well. She does a lot of non-duality work on there. And yeah, it was just so incredible to chat with her and learn more about her and what she does, and also about non-duality. But yeah, go follow her on all of her socials. And without further ado, here's the interview.
Hello, my dear.
Hello, hello. It's so sunny where you are. I'm
Yeah, I've got
jealous.
there's these lovely big Edwardian windows right in front, so all the light
Yeah,
comes in.
because it's morning where you are, right?
It's just coming to 12 o'clock. We're on 11:59.
Awesome. It's about 8 p.m. for me and I'm feeling miserable.
Oh,
I'm not a night person. I'm very much a day person, so I'm so envious of you right now. I need the sun to thrive. Um, but yeah, welcome. Thank you so much for doing this. I've been really wanting to meet you because you seem like a very interesting person, and I love your spiritual work. Um, quickly before we like officially start, I was reading through like your website, and I'm pretty sure you use she/her pronouns, but I wanted to double check. Is that correct?
thank you for asking. Yes, that is apparently correct.
She/her.
I was going to ask you what your preferred were as well. Actually,
Oh, um, to be honest, I don't really have any. So you can call
fair.
me, but I guess he, him works, but whatever you're comfortable with. Yeah. So would you say you're part of the LGBT community or?
Um, are we recording? Are we going now?
Oh yeah, it's already started. But
That's cool.
I can cut this
No,
part out
no,
if you're not
no,
comfortable.
no, it's fine.
Okay.
Um, this character of Alexis doesn't really consider herself to be part of any community anymore.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, you're kind of like me in the sense that I used to kind of identify with a specific label, but once I got introduced to spirituality, that has become like the main thing for me. And I don't really connect with any particular label. So yeah, I can
Mm.
relate to that a lot. But your camera's a little blurry. I was wondering if you could like shift it a little bit closer to you, if that's possible.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
This is a bit clearer now.
Yeah, for sure. I love your background, by the way. Is this your are you recording this in your living room or
This is the bed sit. Yeah.
awesome. I see you have like some paintings over there in the background.
So that's the Northern Light. It's a picture of the Northern Lights. Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's some books on the shelf, and it's a nice big open space. So we've got all this space here
Are you
because
sitting on
it's
the
not.
floor?
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
There's no chairs in this flat.
Is that like a spiritual practice that you're doing, sitting on the floor?
Not really. There's just some kind of preference for sitting on the floor, really.
Okay, I see. It does seem comfortable, not gonna lie.
Sitting on the floor is apparently happening.
Yes. Okay, but to start off, I guess officially with the interview, I was just wondering, like, don't you find it crazy how advanced technology has become that two different people from two different parts of the world can meet virtually like this and like talk to each other?
It's extraordinary, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like opened up so many doors for so many different people. And to me, growing up, technology was already such like a prevalent part of my life because I was born in 2003. So I would say technology was already pretty integrated into society. But I was wondering for you because I'm not too sure how what your age is. Growing up, how prevalent was technology in your life when you were growing up?
So this body is apparently 10 years older than yours. That's wonderful and
Yeah.
extraordinary. Um, technology. Well, this character grew up with two older brothers, and we enjoyed video games a lot. So that could be considered the main technological inputs and inspiration. Obviously, Google and YouTube started to develop in the early 2000s, I think, wasn't it? And as went to secondary school and college, uh, the internet was blooming more and more. And then MSN. I don't know if you would remember MSN, like
I'm not
MSN
sure what
message.
that is.
Yeah, it was an application, a bit like Zoom, but without video. You just send messages to lots and lots of friends. And then Facebook and MySpace. So it's been interesting seeing that digital world develop, really.
Right. Is it overwhelming for you at times?
Not really, no, no.
Because now there's like AI and like they can generate like videos of people and images of people that
Mm.
seem so photorealistic. It's kind of crazy if you think about it. But you mentioned that you were like a gamer when you were a kid.
Yeah, Alexis still games apparently.
Sorry, Alexis still games. Oh, you still Alexis still games like currently as well?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
what does Alexis like to play?
Um, there's a variety of games. She has an Xbox.
Awesome.
So yeah, Gears of War, Halo, Mirror's Edge was a big favorite when that came out.
What about
Um,
Assassin's Creed?
Assassin's Creed, yeah, played the first Assassin's Creed when that came out. The second, but you know, then in the story, video games were replaced with spirituality and Buddhism and meditation. So this huge renunciation period happened where, I went forth and renounced loads of possessions and every this and that to try and, progress spiritually.
Okay, there's a lot to take in there. Could you maybe tell me more about that shift from like being addicted to video games to doing more like spiritual work? How did that shift happen?
Yeah, so perhaps we can go into the nature of the message as we go into that, because that might help to put it into context. Yeah. So, as far as the message is concerned, almost every body is born without a sense of me, and then sometime after the body, the human body is born, there's an energetic contraction which seems to take place, right? And as that energetic contraction seems to happen, um, there's a sense of me in here, in the body, and that me is perceiving a world out there. So subject and object is born. Duality. Duality is born. Separation is now born. And as that separation apparently happens, there's this sense of dissatisfaction. It's dukkha, in they call it in Buddhism. It's dukkha, suffering or unsatisfactoriness, as you know. And then maybe after some time, seeking begins. Seeking not only for substances, objects, relationships, and activities, and that's what Tom did this previous incarnation before they changed their name. Tom went on to, try and find happiness in relationships, in certain activities, and video games, movies, drinking lots of energy drinks, drinking alcohol, try to find satisfaction in all of those things. And that didn't work. And then at a certain point, there was this sort of sensitivity beginning to emerge and develop, right? So then there was this longing for satisfaction beyond the so-called material world. And that's when the spiritual search begins. So one turns to religions and spiritual traditions, certain practices. So Buddhism was the main focus for many years. That was, just to give time, just to put that into time, that was about 2016. Yeah, about tail end of 2015, beginning of 2016, Buddhism became the main thing for Tom. And so meditation became more and more primary, and ethics and wisdom as well, the threefold path as it's sometimes called. And then, this searching for spiritual liberation or enlightenment. And as that seeking intensified and carried its own momentum, Tom started to feel a sense of dissolving identity. And that's when this gender fluidity started to come about. And then, because Tom didn't feel like they were progressing enough, this is all a story, by the way, which is quite illusory. But because they didn't feel like they were developing enough, they decided to renounce lots of possessions. So they got rid of their television, their Xbox, their car, their vinyl records, CDs, DVDs, Blu-rays, loads of clothes, even left the apartment, like literally gave almost everything away. And then moved into this apartment and with barely anything in it. And then this Buddhist path went on and on and on, and then eventually non-duality, this thing that people are calling non-duality, was seemingly discovered.
Okay, that's wonderful. There's a lot to unpack there. So
Yeah.
Tom found religion first.
Yeah, first it was the Vedic scriptures, the Vedas from the East, secrets from the East, they're sometimes called. There was a lovely book that was donated to them by the Hare Krishna Society, ISKCON. And then they went to this Buddhist center in town, and they were sort of teaching people how to meditate. And that seemed very interesting, because prior to that, it was like atheism, and I mean, Christianity was somewhat interesting in the early teens, but then atheism became more apparent, and then these Eastern philosophies started to become more appealing and interesting. So had a look into Buddhism and Taoism and Shintoism, the journey to the East, as it were.
It seems like you've been on this spiritual path for a pretty good amount of time. How long would you say you've been on this path for?
Well, there's no way of knowing that, really. I could say how long it's been in clock time, but that would be misleading. And also, if we go too far into the past of the journey of Alexis, it would suggest that that led to the falling away of me, and it didn't. This falling away of me is also illusory, because the apparent me existing is illusory. And so, although the Buddhism and the discovering this and the practicing that, and then yoga and qigong and breath work, all of that was on offer and seemed to be very appealing and interesting and beneficial in many ways, there was this sort of recognition, for want of a better word, that although that's lovely and it's helpful to seemingly maintain the physical, mental, emotional, and energetic health of the body, it has nothing to do with the falling away of me.
Okay. All right, I'll try to process that. You mentioned non-duality. And to me, from my perspective, non-duality is one part of spirituality. But when you talk about it, it seems something a bit grander and vaster and more significant. So I was wondering more so, what does non-duality actually mean to you, and why do you connect with it?
Right. So it's not me, but non-duality, as far as this is concerned, is simply not two. And the two that apparently comes into existence is the experience of separation. It's the experience of subject, object, inside, outside. It's yin and yang, It's all of the polarities that seemingly come into existence. And the message, as it's often called by this body, as well as Tony Parsons, who we'll perhaps explore in a moment, the message is pointing to that which already is. It's already whole. The whole which is not two. The whole which is not one either. It's nothing and everything. It's completely boundless and free. And within that boundless energetic freedom, there's the appearance of separation. So within the whole appears two-ness, but it's only an appearance.
Okay. You mentioned someone named Tony Parsons. Maybe you can tell us more about that.
So as the striving and the seeking was going on in the story, she found various Buddhist teachers, swamis, yogis, gurus of various traditions and lineages and non-lineages, Osho, and then discovered Eckhart Tolle as well, who and Rupert Spira and all of these other teachers, and that was all very fruitful and lovely, and very, very interesting. And then it was just then this body was discovered who goes by the name of Tony Parsons, who delivers a message so radical that it can't possibly be understood or comprehended. It can't be taught because it's the end of knowing. Knowing is duality, and that's the part that's incomprehensible. Knowing, right, implies a knower and something that is known. Knower and a known, that's duality. And so what non-duality is about is not knowing. It's beyond the polarity of knowing and knowledge, and therefore it can't be taught. It can only be pointed to with lame and lousy dualistic words.
Okay, it sounds a little bit like, from my perspective, as someone who mainly follows Eckhart Tolle's teachings, it sounds a bit like non-conceptualization. Would you say it's similar to that?
Yeah, so often as this message is seemingly discovered and elaborated on, it can seem very conceptual because words are being used. But yes, it's not conceptual really at all. It's energetic. It's very mysterious as the message, gets expounded on. Something very mysteriously energetic takes place, and that can't possibly be comprehended by the human physiology or psychology. It's beautiful. It's just absolutely beautiful, and it's so alive and radical.
Okay, so how do we tap into this energy that you're speaking of?
Yeah, so the we that wants to tap into the energy is the seeking.
Oh,
That's the seeking for the end of seeking, which is very sweet and innocent. This energetic contraction of me and selfhood and separation, experiencing itself as separate from everything else around it, is an illusion. And that illusion of me can't see through itself. An illusion can't see itself to be an illusion. It can't know anything other than that illusory nature. But somehow, either spontaneously when walking through a park, which is apparently what happened for Tony's body, or feeling depressed in the dead of night, like Mr. Tolle, or other beings, there can be this blowing away, just this complete spontaneous explosion. And then there's the end of a sense of me in a body experiencing a world out there. There's just everything again. Also, upon hearing the message, sometimes when there's a sensitivity and a receptivity and a resonance, in a way it's kind of a readiness, but it's not me who is ready. It's kind of like a readiness, but there's no one who is ready. using words as best we can to describe that, when that message is kind of expounded upon, there can be this resonance which can only seem to assist the death of that me that finds itself separate and dissatisfied within the human psychophysical organism.
Okay, and since you said that this kind of thing can't be taught, then how would you kind of word what you are doing, what your spiritual work is to people? What is it that you actually do if this is not a teaching?
Yeah. So what's been discovered by no one is that this me has just been penetrated and blown out and sort of recognized or recognized. I like to use the word recognized because it's kind of like the whole body mind seems to have to adapt and adjust to living without a me, which actually it always has done. But this seeing through, which is also rubbish because that suggests that someone is seeing through. But this recognition or seeing is just what it is. You know, what happens is that this body is just saying words, like speaking is just happening and it's just communicating, but it's not coming from someone, it's not coming from knowledge or experience, it's not coming from anything, it's coming out of nothing, and it's simply a response to what's going on. And so when the meetings happen, for example, to put it in that context, when a meeting happens, a so-called non-duality meeting, people come along, there's a bit of an intro as to what has been recognized for this body thing. That is elaborated on, and then questions and suggestions come along, and there's just a spontaneous response to that. And some bodies will be a little bit receptive to that. Oh, no free will, no choice, no me, no meaning, no purpose. These radical statements, these radical suggestions that everything is already completely boundless and whole. There can be this receptivity to those suggestions, and then there can be a sort of a relaxation. And some me's hearing these radical suggestions can actually seem to be reinforced and even more contracted upon hearing those things.
Right, of course. So
you're on mute.
Yeah, because the people are talking. So
Sorry.
then then we are basically nothing?
Nothing appearing as Alois, is it?
Alois.
Alois, yeah. So nothing Aloising, nothing Alexising, nothing Google Meeting. Yeah.
Interesting. Because Eckhart says that we are actually consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this message is quite radically different to that, and that's okay. That's what it is. As far as this message is concerned, consciousness is duality, and that's really provocative and radical and totally incomprehensible, because as long as there's consciousness, there's going to be someone who is apparently conscious and something to be conscious of, and that's dualistic. Consciousness, the word consciousness simply means knowing, to know. It's a knowing quality or a knowing presence. Presence, awareness, consciousness. It means that there's an entity that is aware of something, subject, object. It's duality. When the me falls away, there's no longer consciousness. There's just simply what is, apparently. That's just what's happening.
Right. Okay. And would you recommend any spiritual teachers or guides that maybe touch on this more that we can learn about, like non-duality?
Yeah, so non-duality, because of what's been just shared, non-duality can't be taught because it's already this. It's already this, what it is. A teaching implies that we're going somewhere, that there's something incomplete and it can learn how to be complete. And that's also dualistic. So this non-duality message is saying that everything is already complete, whole, fulfilled, and even perfect. Even the appearance of imperfection, of incompletion, of lacking, of separation is the whole appearing as such. Some teachers will totally disagree with that because it just pulls out every single card that the me has to sustain itself, because all it knows is separation, and it fears not knowing. It's the ultimate fear of me is not knowing, which is death, you know. But you know, so this message seems to be quite recently being expounded upon by certain bodies. You've got the likes of Tony Parsons, who seemed to be the first the first body to communicate this message in this way of this age. You know, in the last 50 years or so. Since him, there's been Jim Newman, Kenneth Madden, Naho, Andreas Mueller, and quite a few other people are sort of starting to fall away, it seems, and this message is becoming more and more popular. But it's so unpopular for the me because it doesn't give anything to the me. It has nothing on offer for the me. It's got no teachings, no path, no practice, because it's saying that this is already whole. You can see back in just one last thing is that you can see back in the past, like if you trace back to certain saints, gurus, masters, swamis, rinpoches, lamas, you know, priests and, you know, nuns and stuff, you can see back to certain scriptures that certain scriptures seem to point to this. But then what happens is that lots of people read that, misinterpret it, and turn it into a teaching that we can apply to make our life more whole. And that's when it becomes dualistic again. So there's this constant battle seemingly taking place.
Okay. To me, it seems like Alexis is already whole and complete. So I'm wondering, does Alexis have any desires or wants?
So, for example, when me is revealed to be not, eating still happens, you know, peanut butter on toast or you know, pizza like that, or, you know, that's still happening. That's still apparently happening. Video gaming is still happening. Prior, there was this, no, you can't video game, you can't watch movies, you can't eat these foods, that's not allowed because that doesn't suit the story of the morality of being a yogini or a Buddhist or a whatever. You have to be on this straight and narrow path going towards this destination which you've projected onto life, and that's a dream. Once that falls away, it's like, well, life is just living itself. And so, you know, games might be played, movies might be watched by a body, and enjoyment happens, pleasure happens. Life is just beautifully living itself without a me. So you could call that desire, and it is very pleasurable, but it's pleasurable on behalf of no one. It's just life living. Life is just living itself. It's just flow, free flow without a person in that.
Okay, that's a lot to digest as well. You mentioned something about a yogini, and I believe I think, I'm not sure whether you're on your Google profile, but I remember seeing the word yogini dakini. I was wondering if what that specifically is, and maybe you can talk more about what that is.
Yeah, so it's a fancy couple of words because Alexis likes stories, even though it's been revealed that there's no one here.
Right.
But you know, Alexis likes stories, and so what the yogini means, because yoga, of course, means union, or you know, merging or binding. What that word now means is the expression of the whole. It's like the whole totality of the everything, the all-encompassing thisness, which includes everything. Even the one who feels separate is that apparently happening. So yogini means that which is completely all-encompassingly this. The Dakini, which is a Buddhist. You probably know this, but she's a Buddhist. She's an archetypal female, wild, enlightened spirit that's totally wild. She's often depicted as completely naked, bright red, standing in a circle of flames with a necklace of skulls, holding a skull with blood and a dagger dripping and standing on a corpse. She's quite tantric. She's a very tantric, wild, energetic archetype. Very Kali-like. She's like the Buddhist equivalent to Kali Ma. And that is, you could say, that's like the radical nature of the message. It's uncompromising, it's totally radical, and it completely sees through the illusion of separation. It's like, just, it doesn't make concessions. It just points out the illusion of me.
Okay, yeah, because on Alexis's website, I noticed that it said radical non-duality, and you mentioned radicalness a lot. So then, what is normal non-duality, and how's the difference? How is the difference?
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, it's radical because it's so incredibly unbelievable and unacceptable to a person experiencing themselves as separate. The me, the I, the self that finds itself, on a journey in time with its free will and choice and meaning and purpose, going in a path better than this. That this radical message just does not subscribe to that. It doesn't, and it doesn't match it. So when this message is spoken, it's the me can't possibly believe that. It can't subscribe to it, can't accept it, because all it knows is separation and seeking for non-separation, for wholeness. It can never know wholeness because itself is separation. It's not experiencing separation. The experience of me is separation. So the message is radical because it just completely blows that out of the water, uncompromisingly. And so the me can't, it's an unacceptable message, really. It's totally outrageous.
Okay, I see. So this Alexis person has a website. I believe Alexis also writes articles for something called Brains Magazines. I was wondering if Alexis could talk more about what that is specifically and like what Alexis hopes to achieve by writing all these articles.
Yeah, great. Yeah, it's a very good question because it seems very much like there's a person in here trying to achieve something with promoting this message and sharing it, and writing articles and hosting meetings and making YouTube videos and having interviews with other people. And that's simply not what's happening, which is also part of the radical nature. There's simply, through this message revealing the nature of non-duality, there's just this joy, this real joy that seems to take place when sharing this message with other no beings. It's a joyful expression, and it's a response to the sense of separation in the world. It's happening on behalf of no one, and in a way it's happening for no reason at all. It's just the expression making its way out of the body since it's been revealed that there's no one in here. And it's not trying to make anyone's life better or worse. It sees beyond the polarity of better and worse, good, bad, right, wrong. It's saying that this is already whole and complete. And as that gets shared, there's a joyfulness that seems to take place. And it's kind of like a celebration. It's a celebration, you could say. It's spontaneous and organic and fluid and carrying its own momentum. These words are coming out of absolutely nothing. There's no knowing in this. And that can assist, it can seem to assist the falling away of me's who are somewhat apparently receptive to the message. And it's growing. It's growing, and it's taking its own momentum. It's carrying its way. It's, just, I mean, your beautiful self emailing me all the way from Singapore. I mean, that's just totally miraculous as far as this is concerned. And just the other day, someone emailed from Florida saying, "Thank you so much for this message." It's like, that's, it's, in a way, it's so mysterious and miraculous that that's just what's happening. But this, it's not. I'm not responsible for that. That's just what it is.
Right. That person that emailed you from Florida, was that person's name Andy by any chance?
There is an Andy that has messaged, but I think this was a lady. But there was another Andy that messaged. But I think that person lives in England, actually, in Hinckley,
England.
not from this city.
All right, I see. And how does Alexis enjoy England?
Yeah, well, it is. Leicester in the Midlands of England is very multicultural, so that's quite nice. There's so many different religions and temples and churches and mosques, and loads of different cultures from all over the world are here, very much here in the city. So I can't speak on behalf of the whole country because she doesn't spend a lot of time going around here, there, and everywhere. It's mainly just Leicester, but Leicester itself is very multicultural. However, it's often overcast and grey because it's in the middle of land, like Midland. So it seems to have pros and cons, but again, it just is what it is.
Is Alexis originally from Leicester, or did she move?
She was born in Swindon, which is somewhere a bit south of Leicester, I think, maybe somewhere near London. Lived in Leicestershire since about 8 years old. So it's, have travelled, have been abroad,
Has Alexis been to Singapore?
No, never been to Asia. Never been to Asia at all.
Aw.
Not India, China, or Japan. I would love to go. Absolutely be delightful to go.
Yeah, India is known as like the spiritual capital of the world. So I would fully expect Alexis to go to India someday. But does Alexis know where Singapore is?
Geography is not one of the strong suits of Alexis. So
Okay.
I might avoid that question.
That's fine. That's fine. I wouldn't know it
You can
if
tell,
I
you
was.
can say that.
Singapore is like near Philippines, Thailand,
Mm.
Indonesia, around that
Yeah.
area. We're like a very small dot on the world
Yeah,
map, so it's
yeah.
barely visible. So I don't blame you if you don't know where we are.
It's not connected to mainland China, is it?
It's connected to Malaysia.
Right, right.
Yeah, and it's very sunny here, which I think a lot of UK people would envy, right? Because I heard that in the UK it's very like gloomy and rainy all the time.
It can be not all the time. I mean, right now it's fairly sunny, and we're in December, so yeah, the weather is quite fluid, and it can be a bit sporadic. Rain and wind, snow, sun, a bit like Iceland in that way.
And does Alexis enjoy the sun, or is Alexis more of a night owl?
To be honest, it's just fluid. It's just is what it is. There's an enjoyment of the sun, of course. The body seems to enjoy sunshine, vitamin D, as we know. But yeah, there's no real massive preference. I suppose after Christmas, when January, February, and March are very cold, very dark, very gloomy, that can be a bit hard sometimes.
For sure.
But yeah, she likes the winter. I mean, she's been to Iceland and Norway, and it was gorgeous. But then the air was seemingly a lot more clear, and it seemed like there was less pollution because of the mountainous landscapes and everything was very spread out. Yeah, so winter, summer, spring, They all, sometimes quite nice just relaxing in the winter, with a book or candles and that. And then
So,
summertime is very popular, like going out, socializing, that kind of thing.
does Alexis enjoy socializing, or is Alexis more of a homebody?
A bit of a chameleon, actually, a bit of both. Yeah,
Similar to
yeah,
me.
yeah.
Yeah. So, has Alexis traveled a lot? Because Alexis mentioned going to Greenland.
Iceland,
Oh, sorry,
Iceland. Yeah,
Iceland.
yeah. I went to Iceland twice, back in 2015 and 2016. That was incredible. Beautiful country,
Yeah,
incredible piece of land, being pulled apart on two tectonic plates. So there's lots of geothermal activity and hotspots and geysers and volcanoes. It's just extraordinary.
a lot of nature. Yeah.
Yeah, the abundance of nature is unfathomable.
What is your perspective on nature?
It's wonderfully meaningless. It's so abundantly pure and without any meaning whatsoever, and that is why it's so beautiful. That's like it's so boundless and whole and vast and diverse and intelligent, and it's all happening for no reason or significance whatsoever.
Alexis sounds very well spoken. I'm wondering where Alexis went to school.
Well, she would be surprised if you'd heard of the of the schools. There were any special schools. It wasn't like boarding or anything like that. It's just regular mainstream schools.
Did Alexis go to like university or?
Went to college to study media, creative media.
I'm studying media.
Ah,
So, did you lose interest in media, or did Alexis lose interest in media?
well, it was another part of the seeking, I guess. It's making because the particular enjoyment was filmmaking. So there was a lot of enjoyment for filmmaking. So as the creative media course developed, there was two courses. It was a HND, so it wasn't a degree. Um, uh, yeah, that was fun. There was a lot of fun. A lot of creative energy seemed to come out of that. And then we carried on making films. Alexis and a friend. And then as Buddhism and meditation and yoga started to come in, that kind of started to go out. But as non-duality and other things have happened, the the camera work and the microphone and the focusing, like the little details, have seemingly helped to improve the quality of the videos that are uploaded. But that has no significance or meaning of any kind. It just is what it is. It's a bonus. It's a nice little bonus.
I'm wondering how Alexis views money.
Money,
Yeah.
it's an appearance like everything else.
And what about jobs?
Jobs. Jobs are what's happening. So, there might be jobs, making money is happening, going to work is happening. Um, you know, Alexis studied yoga in quite a lot of depth, studied Kundalini, Yin, Ashtanga, Hatha, Vinyasa, Iyengar, did yoga teacher training with various different teachers, Qigong as well, breathwork. And so got these qualifications and was a teaching assistant in a special needs school, and then got promoted to become a yoga specialist that works with disabled children. So working with children's bodies and assisting them to release tension and things like that happens. So there can be a bit of a conflict between the message of radical non-duality that doesn't teach anything because it's revealed that all is whole, and then at the same time going to work is apparently happening and working with children's disabled bodies, and there's a lot of pain there. That's also what's happening.
So it's like a paradox.
It's a bit of a paradox, yeah. But what's being seen and what's being revealed is that working with children and assisting their bodies is just what's happening, but it's not leading them to believe that they're incomplete. This actually sees those children as completely perfect, even when they're in pain and suffering and discomfort. It doesn't mean that I just sit back and say you're perfect, so I'm not going to do anything. That would be a complete misinterpretation of the message, which often happens, unfortunately. But it's like, pain is happening. There may be a response to alleviate that pain and suffering within that body. So that will happen. But at the same time, it's recognized that that body, that mind, that person, even when they're suffering, they are whole. They are wholeness appearing as that beautiful expression of empty fullness.
Wonderful. It sounds like Alexis is into activism. Is that true?
Activism.
Working
Um,
with like other people for like social causes, that kind of thing.
there was a little bit of that. You know, um, for a long time, Alexis was, going zero waste shopping and like, getting lots of glass jars and vegan and getting really, going to whole food shops and avoiding the mass supermarkets and stuff. That was very important to the practice of ethics, which, as you may know, is a central fundamental aspect of living a Buddhist life or a Hindu life or a yogi's life. Ethics can become very important. Since the revealing of the empty fullness, the wholeness, the beloved, the divine, whatever you want to call this nameless thing that is no thing, the body still doesn't eat meat because that programming has been in there. But there's no need here. There's no need to prove oneself or to impress people as such. I'm not saying that's what activism is, obviously not. So there's a response to suffering, but Alexis doesn't tend to go out of their way really to be overly active. I mean, she will go to like charity events and stuff if invited. That can happen. It happened the other day. But it's not being the central focus of one's livelihood, as it were. But working in the school, doing things here and there.
So how would Alexis describe her responsibility in the world? Or is there no such
Yeah,
thing?
yeah. So, yeah, responsibility is an interesting one. Responsibility seems to be deeply interconnected with morality, and there is no such thing. Not on a real level. Not on a real level. However, through the programming and the conditioning of the human physiology and the psychology, there have been behaviors and thoughts and, patterns of various kinds where the body will navigate the world in a certain way. And there will be a response to pain and suffering in the world as it's, if there's a need. I mean, if obviously, if there's someone crossing the street and they get hit by a car, and this body sees that, then obviously, the body would go over there and respond to that. So it doesn't relinquish, it's all whole. Everything's fine. It's like, but there's a response that would happen when it's happening. But there's no sort of person. There's no real person. Therefore, there's no real responsibility. There's no real morality. That's an appearance in the story of me, which is anatman, as anatta, anatman, no self, no real solidified, separate, fixed self.
Right. And that's what I try to practice. Not sure if I'm doing a good job, but I try not to judge myself. But yeah, that was a very insightful thing that Alexis said. And I'm wondering, just as we're nearing the end of the interview, I was wondering if Alexis has any plans for the holiday season.
Yeah, so Alexis enjoys. Just by the way, there is this recognition that speaking in the third person is very unusual and unconventional thing for when people do that. But there's always been a sort of preference for that because there is no one really in here. It's just thought that would be said. But yeah, Alexis loves spending time with her parents actually, so probably spend a few days with them and the older brothers.
Awesome.
Play lots of games and laugh and watch silly movies and things like that and eat great food.
That sounds like such a wonderful time. And okay, then one final question for Alexis before we hop out of this call. Where can people find Alexis and how can they support Alexis?
Well, thank you very much, Alois.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you type in Yogini Darkini into the various social media platforms, it should come up. So Yogini Darkini on Facebook, Yogini Darkini on Instagram. Yogini Darkini might come up, it should come up on YouTube because that's the tag, but Alexis Non-Duality is the name of the YouTube page. There's also the Yogini Darkini website, which is posted on all of those other websites. So they're all interconnected. Yeah. And meetings are happening, recordings happening, little posts here and there, Brains magazine as well. So it's all, and there's an email list as well. There's a subscription. People can subscribe on the website and receive emails of meetings. Zoom meetings are going to start to happen as well. So that's something that's been looking into because people are asking for it. So that will happen in the very, very, very near future.
Okay.
Apparently.
Anything else?
Anything else?
Yeah.
Any other final remarks, you mean?
Oh, as in like any other stuff that Alexis would like to promote?
Just that this is already whole. This is it.
Wonderful.
Never not been that.
Wonderful. Thank you for watching this interview with Alexis Knight. Please go follow her on all her socials and go support her. And thank you for watching.